on in. Emma usually comes in first, but she decided to wait. Okay. So thanks for filling out all the paperwork
No problem.
ahead of time. So this session is just a very first session. What I want to do is take a few minutes and go over just highlights of the initial forms, and then spend maybe about half an hour or so on information gathering, and then we'll shift to what's bringing you in, because that's why you're here to begin with. So let's see here. I see that you went ahead and signed everything. Thanks for that. The highlights are, what we talk about in here is confidential, and this is a demonstration, so this is not a real client for those of you watching, but just to demonstrate a blend of an intake, a formal and informal kind of intake. What we talk about is confidential. There are some limits to confidentiality. If I think you're going to hurt yourself or somebody else, if there is a child or elder who's in danger, any one of those kinds of situations, I have an obligation to report to another authority. And you and I will talk about that if that's something that comes up. Our session today will be about 50 to 55 minutes, so that we have plenty of time to talk about not just the big information, the umbrella, but also what's bringing it in.
Okay.
Let's see here, what else? One of the things that I like to say to folks is to talk a little bit about what counseling is, and then kind of my approach. So the way that I see counseling is it's a lot like a conversation. What's different is the focus is on you. I'll certainly participate in it, and you'll find out a little bit about me through our interaction, but really the focus is on you. I'm a what you see is what you get kind of person. If I have a question, I'll ask you. If I have a comment, I'll let you know. I do it pretty gently and not in your face. So that seems to be comforting for most people. I do take notes when I'm in session. If it gets in the way, then I stop. Today I'm going to write a lot of notes because there's a lot of information that I want to kind of assimilate.
Okay.
And then at the end of the session, I should have had one of these. What I do in my practice is have a between session form that serves as a receipt.
Okay.
And then together we'll figure out things for you to think about or work on between this session and next appointment time. We'll go down there should we decide on that.
Okay.
And then you get the original and I'll hang on to a copy so that you have something that's tangible to take home with you.
Okay, great.
Right? So I'm going to slide that right there to keep it close. And any questions up to this point?
I don't think so.
You know, one of the things that I encourage folks as I work with them too is you're welcome to jot notes as well. So I have plenty of paper. I can snag some at any point for you to write notes if you want to.
Okay.
And just so that you know, I'm not writing, well, what she says is this, but what she thinks is, I'm often writing word for word what you say, and sometimes a comment that I might make, just to keep track of it all.
Okay.
All right. All right, so let's see here. You said on the form that you've had a recent breakup. And I want to explore that, and I also want to, again, here's the big picture. I've got a lot of questions to ask just in this session. So this session's gonna look a lot different than other sessions will. I have a lot of questions on here. Some of them I'll skip, but I wanna get the most pertinent ones. And we can stop at any point too.
Okay.
Okay. So let's see here. You said that it was your boyfriend who broke up with you.
Mhm.
So tell me just a little bit more about that.
We were dating for 5 years, and the breakup was kind of just out of the blue, so I think
Mhm.
that's why I'm left just wondering about it,
Mhm.
and that's why I'm really upset about it, just
Mhm.
because I thought I was gonna marry him, and I guess he didn't think that, so,
It's tough.
yeah.
Yeah. And I wonder then, what the impact of this has been on you.
Definitely have some anxiety. It's really hard for me to fall asleep at night, and I'm usually really upset at night when I have to go to bed because I'm alone. So
Okay.
that's when it's been the hardest.
Okay. And that actually is the, a part of this whole area right here for me to check. So give me a couple of seconds
Oh,
and
okay.
we'll look. So, you're having difficulty falling asleep.
Mm-hmm.
How is your sleep?
Once I fall asleep, it's okay. It's just getting to sleep. So sometimes I'll fall asleep at like 2 or 3 in the morning.
Okay, all right. So you're sleeping less as well as having difficulty falling asleep.
Right.
How about any daytime sleepiness?
Occasional when I fall asleep really late and have to wake up early for work,
Okay,
but nothing too bad.
okay. And how about appetite?
Definitely have a loss in appetite, I
Okay.
would say. I'm not eating as much and I kind of forget to eat throughout the day.
Okay. And, any change in weight?
Not that I've noticed.
Okay. And how about energy?
I guess I've been kind of mellow
Uh-huh.
lately just because I've been so upset, so I guess my energy has gone down.
And since when?
I guess for about a few weeks now. I've just been kind of mellow.
Mm-hmm. When you say a few weeks, since when?
What's today?
The 10th.
So I guess actually a month. We broke up about a month ago. So since that breakup, about a month.
And how about, your just interests in general?
I kind of have interests, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I'm still going to work,
Okay.
but not really interested in social stuff, like going out with friends.
Okay. So interests okay, but in terms of, going out with friends, that's less than
Yeah.
before.
Mhm.
How about mood?
The only thing that I've really noticed is I'm just really sad a lot of the time.
And you said anxious too.
Yeah, and anxious too.
Okay.
Especially at night and when I realize I'm by myself.
Okay. And, any irritability or difficulty with focusing or concentrating?
No, I wouldn't
Okay.
say that.
Any, kind of repetitive behaviors, obsessions, compulsions? Any, self-harm kinds of activities? Some
No.
people end up, scratching or cutting on themselves.
Yeah, no.
All right. And, anything else that's been most notable about, in terms of symptoms?
I don't think so. I think I
Okay.
covered everything.
And because you said that you felt sad a lot of the time, I wanna ask, about if you've been wanting to hurt or kill yourself.
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay. And how about, anybody else?
No.
see that you have a master's degree. I could gather information about where you went to school. But just tell me a little bit about, you have a master's, where'd you end up going to school? Yeah.
I went to ODU actually.
Okay. All right, and what's your master's in?
In mental health counseling.
Okay. And undergrad?
That was at ODU as well, in psychology.
Okay. All right. And when did you finish your master's?
That was this past summer, 2016.
Okay.
Forgot what year it was.
I know, right? And then I'm assuming that you went from undergrad to grad. That's
right.
A big assumption, but
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
So
I went straight.
what I know about a mental health program, that it's usually a couple years. So okay, so you would have graduated from your undergrad 2 years before that.
Right.
In 2014.
Yep.
Okay. And how about current employment? Tell me a little bit about that.
Right now I'm working as a nanny. So I do that full time throughout the week.
Okay. And how long have you been doing that?
That's been a while. Since like 6 years, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how fulfilling is that for you?
I think that's when I feel the happiest, especially now.
Okay.
So I really enjoy it.
Okay. Hobbies, interests that you have?
I really like to go for walks, runs. I just like to be outside. So hikes, whatever that entails, being outside, I just really enjoy that.
Okay. Let's see here. I sometimes ask about siblings. You know, what some people do at this point would be to do a genogram.
Okay.
I don't know if you would be familiar with a genogram, so that might be something that we could do, if not today, then another time.
Okay, great.
Because I'm gonna try and be mindful of time today
Okay.
as well. So I'm gonna just say we'll do a genogram later.
Okay.
Okay. And let's see here. Any physical concerns that maybe influence what is going on for you or your life in general?
I don't think so.
Things like pain or PMS or thyroid stuff or...
I have like occasional migraines, but that would be
Okay.
it.
Okay. How are you with diet, food, eating in general?
Yeah, I like to eat pretty healthy, so I would say my
Okay.
diet's pretty good.
Three or more meals a day?
Yeah, I would do about like 3 big meals and then some snacks in between, some smaller meals, I guess.
Okay. And how's that been impacted by what's been going on for you?
Yeah, so that's changed a little. I'll have like a little bit of breakfast, like grab a yogurt, but then I won't eat until dinner time when I like force myself to eat.
And that's different than
It's
before?
different, yeah.
Okay. How about multivitamin or other?
I do take a multivitamin in the morning.
And some people are aware of the food and mood kind of connection. How aware of it are you?
I would say I'm pretty aware. In times of like stress and anxiety, I've noticed that's when I back off of food.
Okay.
So
That's what is becoming clear as you're talking
Yeah.
today. Any medications?
no.
All right. And what I would, part of this initial information gathering is to get a sense of like family history as well as you.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna ask a general question related to that. Any notable family history of mental health, anxiety, depression, alcoholism, substance use, that you can think of?
Not that I can think of right now.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't think so. I might have to get back to you, but I don't think so.
Okay, so we can come back to this.
Okay.
Alright. I'm just gonna. And how about your relationship to alcohol and other substances?
I drink an occasional glass of wine
Mhm.
on the weekends, but that's about it.
Mhm.
And then no substance use or abuse with that.
So the last time you had a glass of wine was?
I think 2 weekends ago
Okay.
I had a glass of wine.
And again, to kind of get a big picture, I'm wondering what might have happened for you and related to emotional, physical, sexual abuse
Mhm.
history-wise.
Growing up, I had like a close relationship with my parents,
Mhm.
but I guess the way they disciplined me could be borderline abuse, physical
Mhm.
abuse, not so
Mhm.
much emotional. I think just more borderline physical abuse.
Mhm.
But then that stopped when I was like 15 or so.
Mhm.
So, but I have a great relationship with them now,
Mhm.
both my parents.
So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I guess I wasn't like a bad kid, but I tended to test my parents, I guess, and when
Mhm.
they got frustrated with me, usually my dad would like hit me really hard,
Mhm.
and my mom occasionally would do that too,
Mhm.
and not just like a spank. It would be like on the arms or legs or back or
Mhm.
stuff like that, so it wasn't just.
How often would that happen?
Maybe a couple times, or maybe once, at least once a week, I would say.
Mhm.
And I think the most would be twice a week. That would be the most that would happen, but
Mhm.
it happened enough, pretty
Mhm.
often.
Any marks left?
There were like handprint marks.
Mhm.
I don't think I ever had bruises,
Mhm.
but the handprint marks, I remember
Okay.
seeing those.
Okay. And how about any past mental health issues?
I don't think.
Any inpatient or
No, no.
outpatient? So this is the first time you've come in for counseling?
Yeah.
Okay. It's my intention to make sure that this is a good experience for you. And that's part of the reason I kind of do this blend of information gathering in the first session. Some people do more than I do, but I want to make sure that we have time for you to talk about what's really going on for you.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be mostly the last part of what of the intake form, and it has to do with just any kind of problems that may have happened for you when you were a child.
Okay.
Any just anything that was notable related to physical development, psychological delays, or social development or delays, or intellectual, academic.
I don't think any of those.
Okay. All right. And so let's then talk more about what's going on for you.
Okay. So like I had mentioned earlier, I recently went through a breakup and we were together for 5 years, so I think that's why it's been so difficult. And like I had said too, I thought I was going to marry him, and that's what's been the most difficult because obviously he didn't feel those same feelings, and I'm kind of left wondering when he's like stopped feeling those feelings, or if he ever thought he was gonna marry me, or if this was just like a one-sided relationship. I just have a lot of questions, I guess, in my head, and we're not talking to one another, so I can't really ask him the questions. He cut off communication.
Oh, that's hard.
Yeah, it's really hard. So
you're not even sure what happened.
Yeah, I'm really confused.
Yeah, that's one of the things that you had said on the initial forms, that you were really confused.
Right, and I've gone through breakups before in the past, but this one's been the most difficult for me.
Okay. And so tell me a little bit more about sort of the circumstances around what happened a month ago, because it sounds like it took you by surprise.
It did. I guess it took me by surprise, but now thinking about it, I could see that he was kind of distancing himself a little. Like, we stopped hanging out with each other like every other day, which that's what we normally did, and he kind of distanced himself, but I didn't really bring it up or think anything of it because I just didn't think it would end up with a breakup, or if it was important, I assumed he would tell me what was going on. So I guess now looking back, there were some signs that led to this, but nothing that made me feel like he was going to end the relationship.
So you're already doing this rewind that says, what did I miss?
Yeah, and I think I've been that's what keeps me up at night too, because I'm the kind of person that likes answers to things, and this is no answer, so it's been very distressful and hard.
So what's happening, and maybe how you'd want to use counseling would be to kind of figure out what happened from your perspective, and maybe how you might have contributed to something.
Right.
And you mentioned before anxiety. You've got more anxiety.
Yeah.
Maybe part of what counseling might help with is to reduce the anxiety. Let's see here. So what else would you want to get from counseling?
I think a big thing now that I'm single is learning to be okay with being by myself, because that's been something I've been struggling with for the past month since I was in a relationship for so long. It's a big change for me, and I want to be okay with it.
Okay. And I'm wondering too, sometimes I ask, and I just didn't to this time, you've studied counseling, and so like, what are you wanting? What do you? I guess no, that's not the question I want to ask. The way that I describe counseling is that it's a lot like a conversation.
Right.
What's your? How do you see counseling?
That's funny you say that. We had to share how we see counseling in a class. So I kind of see it as a run because I love to do that. So I see it, you go to the first session and it's nothing too emotional, nothing like triggersome, that bad. And then as you go through, keep going through the run, it gets harder and harder, and there's a point sometimes where you want to quit or stop, which is the hardest part, to kind of tell yourself to come back here. So, but I think once you get to that part too, if you work at it and really want to change and really want to put some new things into your brain and into your behaviors, you can get over that hurdle and then hopefully get to a point where you don't need to keep coming back to the counseling.
So how will we know at that point where you want to give up? How will we know? what would you wanna do about that?
I think I'll know when I start making excuses as to why I wouldn't wanna come back.
Mm-hmm.
Or making excuses for changing a behavior, like you had said, the sheet with the in-between session
Mhm.
work, if I make an excuse to not do something, or even to just try something, or
Mm-hmm.
something like that. I think when I start making excuses in my mind is when I don't wanna work on the hard stuff.
Mhm.
I wanna protect myself from it, so.
Okay. And I would suggest that most of us come at learning something new or doing something different. An initial reaction is what I call resistance.
Mhm.
So there's some normal resistance that comes with counseling.
Yeah.
For most people.
Mhm.
And I'm convinced that part of what counseling can do is to help sort through what's going on behind it, and
Mhm.
we can do a workaround or kind of facing it,
Mhm.
or whatever might work best for you.
Right.
Okay. Well, I've asked a lot of questions up to this point. What else would you want me to know? Maybe I didn't ask.
I think maybe with my background being in mental health,
Mm-hmm.
I guess I try to use the things that I've learned on myself, which sometimes doesn't work. So
It's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to best, we think we can counsel ourselves.
Right. Yeah, and that's why I'm here, because
Uh-huh.
that didn't work. So
Mhm.
I think that everything you covered, I think you got the gist of everything.
Mhm. And so I see this between session plan as bridge work.
Mhm.
What do you think would be a good thing for you to think about or work on between this session and next?
I guess you had mentioned before, I don't know, like 20 minutes or so ago, to kind of figure out how I could have contributed to the breakup too, and I haven't really thought about that. I've just been thinking, like, why did he break up with me? Why did he blah 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 blah? And I haven't really thought about, okay, what did something change with me that contributed to this? So maybe think about that and change
Okay.
how I'm asking the questions in my head a little.
And I would even back up and say, if you haven't had a chance to write down
Mhm.
kind of what those questions are
Yeah,
that
I
have
haven't
been
done
going
that.
around in your head,
Mhm.
that might be a good starting point.
Yeah, I would like to do that too, because I've just kind of been thinking, and
Okay.
maybe writing them down will be helpful.
There's some good research that says that writing things down does seem to make a difference,
Mhm.
and especially when it comes to anxiety, and especially if it keeps spinning around in your head.
Mhm.
So if you'll maybe write down the questions
Yeah.
that you've been wondering about,
Okay.
and that's related to the breakup.
Right.
And then maybe just start reflecting on
Mhm.
your part.
Mhm.
And I'm saying it that way because I want to avoid blame.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that it serves a great purpose,
Mhm.
but just sort of looking at, like, what was my part, and as opposed to, instead of blame, maybe saying I was responsible for.
Right.
Okay. And then one of the things that we didn't get to on here, let's see here, was, what did we say? Any family history of illness, or would you kind of do check in about that?
I guess now that I'm thinking about it, there might be undiagnosed anxiety disorder
Mm-hmm.
on my mom's side of the family and some of my cousins.
Okay.
Now that I think about it, through childhood, I remember seeing some of those symptoms.
Okay. It's not unusual for that to run in families.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just kind of think about if there's any other, I've got a long list, from workaholism to excessive clutter to compulsive behaviors, like bulimia, anorexia, or addictions, or alcoholism, or bipolar, or seasonal affective. And you know enough, and I'm guessing you probably did a little bit of work around that in some of your classes.
Yeah.
Doing a
Yeah.
inventory of some sort.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, any questions for me?
I don't think so.
Well, let's also figure out a next day and time for us to meet,
Okay.
and we'll take it from there. And
Okay.
what I'll do is I'll go ahead and give you a copy of this.
Okay, great.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video.
Okay.